Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 204 at scavengerlife.com.
And as always, we always want to welcome all the little trash shelves out there. Scash shelves.
Scavenger trash shelf.
And hope that, we can spend this next hour or so with you and hopefully help you get some work done. That always makes us feel good. Like, it makes us feel like doing this podcast would be...
Yes.
Because we like to be productive people.
We want double, triple productivity.
So today I want to talk about something that, first of all, Ryan and I are not really business people. Or at least I wouldn't say I am. I wasn't raised or taught how to be this. I didn't go to school for business.
Right.
We kind of just stumbled into this. It's kind of... Just because we didn't want to work for someone else, you have to kind of learn to keep a budget and learn how to make money. And hope that if you make more money than if you spend in a month, that kind of thing.
And use your money wisely and build up your business. That's the stuff, I don't know what they teach you when you go to business school.
And try and learn how to, when is it smart for us to borrow some money so then we can invest in a business that will then generate more money than what we would pay back. We would leverage ourselves, which we've kind of done.
Right.
So I only want to say that about what I'm about to talk about.
Yeah.
And that is more an observation of how we see other people run businesses.
Yes.
And I'm not going to talk about online businesses. I'm going to talk about when we just go out into the world, when we go out to eat at a restaurant.
Right.
We can't help ourselves but to make a judgment on the restaurant that we're in.
To observe how it's being run.
Or if we're in another kind of store, to just be check out how many employees there are. Look at how they put things on the shelves. What are their hours,
It's funny that you say that because I think we do that everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere we go, we're okay, how's this set up? How does it feel?
And that only started when we actually started to run an eBay business, when we started to understand, this isn't rocket science. Someone rented a storefront.
Yeah.
They hired the employees. They had this idea, and now it's happening. What do we think about this idea? I never did that when I was just a regular person having a job.
You don't think of those things, but what's interesting is you see the other side of it.
Right.
You see how you want customers treated, how you want to be treated as a customer.
Sure.
How you feel when you walk in. Right. All those things.
Or just think about if there's anything that's being done in a way that I would do better, or or
more efficiently,
or try and think about what a business's overhead might be. I wonder how much they're paying per hour right now to keep this thing going.
I just have to laugh because I think we do it at every whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a store, any kind of store.
And also, we talked about it before, how we think of our eBay store as a mom and pop store. Or it's more maybe how people that come to America, how they will do a business.
Right.
Or basically, they run the business themselves. They do all the work themselves. They make all the money, and that's their life.
Yeah.
And I noticed that in America, I don't see a lot of mom and pop businesses. And so, I bring this up. So we, go out to eat locally, and I find that a lot of the restaurants we go to, they're just individually owned. They don't actually seem to be run by the person that owns the business, because we actually know the people.
Right.
It's they start a restaurant, then they hire, a hostess or a waitress and a cook and a line cook, and there's maybe 8 people, and then the person that owns it isn't actually there.
We went to one recently, actually, and we were talking to the people running it, and it ends up that this woman actually has a full-time job elsewhere.
Well, she said she had to get a full-time job so she could pay to have all these other people run her restaurant.
And the restaurant's very small. So you're what? The first question is, why aren't you running this? I don't understand why you're not running the restaurant.
Right. Or if you run it and you can't make a living, then obviously it's probably not
a good
idea.
business.
Yeah,
it's not a we kind of just like look at it and we're like, why are you doing
Or
this?
also, we know it's this other guy. He's an older gentleman. You know, he invested a lot of money in a restaurant.
A big restaurant.
You know, he had a dream. It was actually kind of nice. But the thing is like as we said, he invested this place, got it all going,
a lot of money, yeah.
hired a whole staff to then run his business while he would never go there. He would do the books, I guess, and
he just did other things.
You know, he would kind of be a supervisor, but he wasn't like hands-on, and so the restaurant kind of closed because it just didn't really work, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of unclear why it stopped, but it's either the owner stopped having fun running the restaurant because he wasn't there, or the money didn't work. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and now we do talk about restaurants, and I understand restaurants are a very different beast than a lot of other businesses, but you can also argue the basic principles of business for any person starting a business are going to be the same.
Right. I mean, you know, that being said, I can imagine running a larger business where you have a lot of employees, or where you have people helping you. It's almost like being able to hire a clone of it yourself. So you have like 4 or 5 of them and they're doing the work. But it's not like, or the way I imagine it is, it's not like I would be able just to kick back and like,
do not
just call me if there's a problem, just send me a check. It would probably be more like I would be actively engaged every single day, but at a higher level while all this stuff is happening, but actively engaged in knowing exactly what's going on.
I think what we see often is either people are telling us, you just need to hire. Why are you taking the time to do that? Like, you should hire someone to do that, right? We hear that all the time from people where they're like, just hire the people to do the eBay, but hire someone to clean the rental, meet the people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but then I have to pay those people. Like, I should just do it myself.
And then it wouldn't be run in a way that would, I think, make it special, which gives it what I think, or what we think is being the
personality
the personality of why people enjoy it and why people keep,
exactly. That's the tough thing.
I mean, I know I've worked for, it's when I had jobs. I know I worked for companies or businesses where, and it seems classic, where all the employees were always angry at a manager because he or she just was totally out of touch with what was going on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
I mean, the last place I worked for 6 years. I mean, we even had a thing where, there was like a turnover of like 3 of these managers, and each time they would bring in like a consultant, and the consultant would sit down and like try and be the person that would hear all the employees, and we would all just be saying like, this is what's happening, and the manager doesn't know what's going on.
Doesn't care.
And that's just such a crazy way to run any kind of business.
Yeah, it's just, it reminds me of that restaurant we were talking about where that woman has a full-time job, and it's not even just like, oh, she works somewhere. She's a nurse.
Right.
That's a serious job that takes a lot of time.
And we even talked to the cook.
Yeah.
Who was just like,
chef.
Was kind of like giving us some down and dirty info on what's going on. It just seems like he's just picking up a paycheck. He's just
for
like,
sure.
I don't know what she's doing here, but I'm just working.
He's just like, I don't know.
So as long as she's willing to shovel money into this business.
And those are the businesses, and I hate to say this, all those shows that you see, like the Gordon Ramsay shows where they're like, yo, business is underwater. Yeah. You're like, that's how it happens, It's like people just think they have to, hire it all out, and there's no control.
And that's what I think has been nice about running like an eBay business, for instance, is like so little money down. I mean, man, when people talk about
overhead,
starting an eBay business and being like, well, yeah, but how do I actually have money to like start? I mean, really? I mean, how much money do you really need to start to go to Goodwill and buy a basket of stuff? Like $100?
Not very much, or it shouldn't be. I mean, you should. Yeah. I mean, what we did, and I don't want to be like, you don't need that much money, because I understand $100 to $500 can be a lot of money when you're just starting out. And for us, it's just down and dirty, keep it simple. I mean, we just were like, we really were like, we are buying the cheapest thing possible just to get any amount of profit to keep going.
But I guess I bring this up because it's wonders. So let's say, and we feel good about what we're doing. Like, what do people do when they want to, like, scale up? Like,
right.
I mean, it's just so interesting. I think I just have no training. I have no experience. And when people talk about, like, starting, bigger and bigger businesses. When we interviewed Chicago Tony V, where he'd go in eBay on the side and talked about, being in love with just doing something very simple and small, hands-on.
He's in charge. Yeah.
Right, but him and his buddy run, I think, 2 or 3 companies where they have multiple employees.
Right.
It's so interesting. Like, I wonder how you even get to that point. That's so interesting. And plus, he does it very well. It seems like he's a successful guy.
Right, exactly.
So he's not like these other people who seem out of touch. He seems very much in touch.
I think it has to do with, if you want to be successful, you have to be engaged, like you're saying, and just really know the people who work for you, understand what they can do, and have confidence in them.
Yeah.
Like, we're always saying, it's not bad to hire someone, but you can't just be like, and I've worked at jobs too where the owner / manager, completely absent, didn't even know what they were paying their employees. Stuff like that where employees are actually saying, how much do I get paid? Like, how much am I supposed to be getting paid? And you're like, this has not been made clear to people. Right. That's number one.
Right.
And so hopefully if you are expanding, you have very clear rule sets of what is expected and how it goes down.
So, we've talked about it. We're always talking about, like, what we want to do. And we always try and balance between, we want to be taking advantage of what we're doing,
right,
versus, like, not being so crazy where, like, our lives are not fun anymore because we're taking on too much. So we talk about, like, what if we were to get a couple more
rentals,
like, invest.
How would we do it?
We like to put our money in real estate, like, what do we, we couldn't then start ending up cleaning 3 houses.
You couldn't do it. And you'd have to hire someone.
Yeah. So it's kind of the balance of, like, how do you be able to expand while still, like, having a clear, like, making sure the business is still yours. Like, it's not just being run by some random person that's, just getting a paycheck.
I mean, and also, like, we find that when we do talk to people who are employees, like we were saying, it's hard to hear those stories sometimes where, like, this chef guy was like, I don't know. Like, it's like he didn't care. I'm like, oh, God, that's my nightmare. Is that someone who's, like, just kind of shrugs, like, they pay me. It's like, oh, God, that is the worst. I am so afraid of that,
Yeah, I think that's why I would always be afraid of hiring someone, is because I wouldn't want to just hire someone that just wanted a paycheck.
Right.
Although, we all need to make
sure.
a living. If you'd really want to find someone that cared about your businesss as much as you did. But I'm just like,
how do you find those people?
How is that possible?
I know, exactly. I mean, we had experience hiring our friend when we were away on our last trip, and it was very successful. We totally trusted him.
Yeah, but I think that's a much different thing, like having someone, like, take care of a place for 2 weeks
versus like all the time.
Finding someone that could run a business for you.
But I guess what I'm saying is,
like almost be the face of your business, and
right.
And that's what I think I talk about when we talk about going into these restaurants where the owner is nowhere to be seen, who isn't ever there, and basically it's your employees are the face. So if they're kind of like bored or just like looking at their phone or like
you know what's crazy, I've seen employees be like that where the owner is there. And
have you?
Yeah,
wow.
Like there's certain restaurants that I won't name any names where you're like, the service is terrible and I see the owner right there, like they just don't care or think that that's okay. I don't know, they're whatever.
So I guess we're really at this moment, number one, just trying to explain how we don't really know the answer. We're just sharing observations and just like we're really embracing that idea of it's so much more fun, for us right now to just like be owner operators,
there is a sense of control, but once we start doing more, it feels a little bit crazy. Like, I think we're on the edge now where we're like the eBay business, the rental, and when we do, traveling for video work, sometimes it's just like,
I even think about, like, this is going to be a big jump in thinking here.
Yeah.
But someone like Rupert Murdoch, or think of someone that owns like a huge transnational corporation who's like CEO of it. I wonder how much understanding he has of what his business is like,
how it's run.
I mean, is he in a room right now in front of like his laptop, and he's connected to his company's website? Like, can he see everything going on, or is he just like, oof, I hope everything's okay? Like,
I think Rupert Murdoch is a terrible example, but I don't know. It's interesting though, because it's like if the numbers for the money and for the shareholders are coming in, maybe he doesn't care. At this point.
Sure.
But I totally know what you're saying though, where you're like, how did they get there? How did they stay there? How did they like make that work on that level? It's so massive. You know what it is. It's a hierarchy of managers, and
Sure.
that's.
I guess that's the thing. It's kind of like they're just pulling a playbook from like a military. The way its military is, where there's a general and corporals and
it's that hierarchy.
Lieutenants. Yeah.
It just goes down, and everyone manages everyone else. I mean, we have a friend who just started like an advertising firm, he started it really small with like 5 people, him and his wife, and then this other company bought them out.
Yeah, they were building websites for people.
Yeah, so it's like right, they were building websites for people, but this other bigger company bought them, and now we were talking to him about it, and he's like, I'm just the head manager. And I have to trust all these other people to be competent enough to manage their teams, which he's like, I'm just used to having 5 people sitting at a table.
Okay, so I'm glad that you brought this up, because I don't want this to be a rambling talk. And so my thing is that when I hear people talk about hiring other people, for me the problem it sounds like they're trying to solve is, I want to make my life easier. Where like I don't want to have to do the work. I want someone else to. But really, like our friend, it's the exact opposite. And because we hung out with him, he says that his life is more complicated now. Like, it's more work, and that's exactly what we heard from Chicago Tony V. That's why he loves this idea of working,
doing
just
an eBay business,
selling some old shoes online, because
basement.
He can do everything. It's simple. It's like not complicated.
He keeps track of everything. He knows all the quality control.
So I feel like that's the point. Is like it's never.
Yes.
Getting bigger and hiring employees doesn't ever make things easier. All it does, and our friend will say this, he just gets paid more.
He gets paid more.
Like, he's getting more money, but the stress of his life gets higher. And he even talked about this, like, maybe I'll just do this for 5 years, and then I'll save all my money, and then I'll bail out, because...
It's really interesting, because I think that there's a lot of pressure when you're a business person and we talked about this all the time, always be expanding. Bigger, 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 bigger. Higher, higher, higher. And we have always been like, we just like it when it's just us.
Right.
Because it's controllable, it's, manageable in my mind and physically.
Right.
And it just...
Well, I think this is the other thing, too. So now that we're kind of... working through these ideas, I think the thing is that some people, and Rupert Murdoch is probably one of these guys who just loves that challenge. Like, we think of that stuff and we're like, oh my God, like, I don't want to have to deal with all this stuff. And like, guys like that or ladies like that are like, I would get bored if it was just a little tiny business.
People.
Like, I need it to be huge and big, and I love that stress and that aggressiveness.
It's I think it's different personalities.
Yeah.
That's why some CEOs are like complete megalomaniacs, and I
guess so, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure people out there who are hearing this who might work in the business world are probably... It's laughing. But this is just like a snapshot of what it sounds like.
This is what we think about.
2 artisty like people get into running a business. It's like that's how we think. Like I can appreciate running a business. I can appreciate the organization and needing a budget and all that. But then at the same time, I'm just like, oof. I guess each of us has our own size that we're interested
that works
in doing.
I think what we always say is it's never less work. Yeah. There's never like a time. I mean, you can scale down on your business if you're like, I don't need to make X amount of money. Let's scale back. Let's have a little more free time, blah, blah, blah. That's possible when you have your own business. But it's never less work.
Right.
Like, it's never going to be like, oh, if I hire 5 people, I won't have to do as much.
Right. I mean, when I think about the big picture, I'm just like, so what it is that we're in the prime of our life and our like earning capabilities, and we're kind of like, growing as big as we want and making as much money as we can and investing and owning this property, and you're kind of like growing with the total assumption that the reason why you're doing this is because as you grow older and you slow down, and then
you've invested.
By that time, you've acquired enough stuff that basically pays for the quietness of your old age. I'm just like, part of me is like, oh, that's so depressing.
I don't know if that's necessarily
that's so we're just like working, and then like it's almost like you're blowing up a balloon, like, so then it just like slowly just. Oh no!
I don't really think that that's quite our goal, but yeah, sure.
I mean, that's not what we're doing.
I think that's an unfounded fear because we've never said that we're working towards, like, not doing anything in our old age. Like, that sounds... unless you, by not doing anything, means we're, like, traveling around the world and, like...
That's right. That's right.
That sounds pretty neat to me, if that's something we can do, but...
Cool.
I don't know. I don't think you should look at our life as a traditional life where you work and then you retire.
Yep.
Doesn't seem like that's how it's going.
Yep.
So
I guess it's just, I only say this, and I've said this before, it's just because that's kind of like how like I've been brought up, that's just like in the culture, like that's just like what we're all taught to be, like a little workers and retirement,
and then you don't work. Yeah. But so, I think it's what we're saying is we're trying to challenge the assumption of what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Like in a business, you're supposed to grow. Right. You're supposed to hire 10 people, or you're nothing.
I mean, and that's the thing. It's like when you can do anything, it's almost like that's even scarier. Just because,
because you're like, what do I do? Yeah, exactly. Well, I know what we do. Yep. We sell old shoes on eBay.
Yep. And we have a lot of fun doing it.
And we rent out a farmhouse. Yep. And that works for us.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about our old shoe business here.
Yes. And we did sell a bunch of old shoes.
Yeah, so we had a good week this week. So in our main store, we sold 37 items for about $2,500.
Oh my God, that is a crazy number.
Yeah, so it's good. We sold a little bit more than it's last week, and we sold a little bit more than the week it's before that. So people have been talking about it.
Good.
There was a couple weeks where things were a little bit slow, and people were like, "Oh, the summer doldrums are here. Forget it. It's all over with." And then I just always remind people, like, it's sometimes slow, it's sometimes not. Sometimes my store's slow and yours isn't, and the opposite. So
exactly,
it's been very good for us. So we had an average price of about $67, which is good.
That is really high, but there were a few very high dollar items that sold.
We sold some good high dollar items, which was great.
So our average price was $67. That is like crazy high. I wish it was always like that.
Yeah,
it's not.
And then we sold on Bonanza. We sold one thing for $49.99.
Yes. We sold something on Bonanza, a pair of slippers. Those are nice bonuses, though. I mean, sometimes it doesn't do the cha-ching, so you kind of don't find out about it till a little while later, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Gotta end it on eBay, quick.
So now the experiment of our second store, which we've talked about, we started it kind of towards the end of May. So it's been about a month now.
Yeah. So
we started from 0 items in our store. We now have 323 things in our second store. That's all Orion. So we sold 6 items last week for
Yeah.
about $250.
We did well in our
is
other
good.
store. It's funny having the other store because, again, we don't get the cha-ching. And you're like, oh, we sold something. We sold something. Like, oh my God.
So I want to talk about that
Yeah.
a bit because, I don't know, we kind of started it as kind of like we weren't sure if we're going to talk about it, but it's turning into something kind of interesting. So I think our experiment is, how long will it take for us to get a second eBay store and be able to make $2,000
A month?
A month. And what we've always told people, is that was our experience. It's with our first store, was if you can get 500 items into your store,
Yeah.
it's maintained 500 items in your inventory, you're going to make about $2,000 a month gross.
Right.
And so far, that may work.
It might. See, I think we had been using that number as a baseline, and we'd gotten so far away from 500, a while ago, that we were like, "Is that still true?"
Yeah, I feel like maybe I was feeling like maybe I'm just making that up.
I know, but we're trying to see with the new store if that is the correct equation.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have enough data yet to say, but like we made $250. It's this week.
We had 300 items.
That would be an average of about $1,000.
Yeah. So if we double our
inventory, yeah. So
stay with
let's
it.
see. I mean, but and that's the other thing. It feels so slow. Like we'll go 3 days
without
selling anything.
Yeah.
In that second store, and then something pops up. So 6 things sells throughout the week. So it's like 1 or 2.
It seems slower than our other store. We're like, oh my God, it's like nothing.
But then I have to, I have to say, yeah, we're on track to make $1,000 in this very first month of starting our store, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
If we, that's why I always tell people, you can't ever assume you're going to just start paying all your bills
right away
when you get started.
Yeah.
I always tell people it's probably going to be about 6 months.
Yeah, max, minimum 6 months.
If you treat it like a full-time job,
yeah,
and put 40 hours a week into it.
Yeah.
But even $1,000, if I was working a job and I got an extra $1,000, I mean, that like pays our phone bill, our internet bill, our utilities, the gas for the cars, our food.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. $1,000 is not a joke.
Right. So it's good to put this in perspective. And, it kind of helps me. So when people new come to the blog or talk or call in, I'm just like, oh yeah, it's like, do you have a small store? Like we have a small store, and this is how you got to think about it. Or if your equation is at the end, I want to pay all my bills and quit, it's my job, then now I'm understanding exactly the amount of work you have to put into it.
It's helping us remember how it is to get started. And that's very helpful because it just feels so long ago since we started. We're like, we don't know. What was it like? Well, now I know.
And also, I think it's different depending on where you're coming at it from. If you're the kind of person that works like $10 an hour job, $12 an hour, you're going to see selling on eBay much differently than I think someone that has a career.
Right.
That's maybe it's making like a salary with benefits.
Yep.
And with the promise, always that carrot dangling in front of you that if you stick it out, you're going to make so much more.
Yeah.
It's money. I mean, I think it's much easier to replace a job that is paying you $10 or $12 an hour versus if you have a career, because to ditch your career means that you're like giving up the promise.
Right. And if you don't have that promise already, there's nothing to lose, you know? I mean, you're like, get me out. So yeah, I think it's just two different perspectives.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about when I was working, I would work jobs where, like I had a salary. I wasn't paid that much, but I just couldn't do it. And so I would like work for like 6 months, 12 months, save up all its money, then I'd quit.
Yeah.
And then I'd have all this savings, and then I would just live, have adventures, and then I have to get a job
Get back
again.
into it. I know, exactly. Well, I'm glad we don't have to do that anymore.
Yep. Okay, so things we sold this week.
Yes, so we had a very exciting sale this week, and I'm pretty sure you guys all saw it in the video. It was my hand-painted light fixture. which seems so silly.
This is all you. This is like a dream.
I told you I was like getting into like looking at stuff on Pinterest. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to try one little experiment and just see what happens. Like with my necklaces that nobody wanted to pay for. I thought they were so cool and whatever. They're great for myself. Like, I'll just wear them, whatever.
I mean, we have sold them, but they were selling for like $10 and $15.
Yeah, not for as much as I wanted. So I painted this light fixture. You guys all saw it. It was a light fixture I got for $2 at Goodwill. It's a nice light fixture, actually. It's a quality light fixture.
And we actually saw almost the same one at Lowe's, and it was selling for
like $60.
$60?
Yeah,
okay.
Or whatever, $40, $50.
Cool.
Similar thing. So I was like, I'm going to paint it. I'm going to market it a certain way. And I'm putting it up for $125. Did not put best offer. And within 8 days I listed it. It sold. Yep. For full price, global shipping, someone in Canada. So that was cool. I was like, okay.
But obviously, with any experiment, we just have to see if we can do it again.
Yeah, will it work again? So I'm gonna do a couple. I have a couple more little things I'm gonna make, and I'm not gonna go too crazy, but I'm gonna just do a couple more. Basically, it's like a fun hobby, and if I can sell them, that's fun.
I think it's my thing. As long as it's fun, then it's just a bonus that things sell,
Right, exactly. So that was
cool. Something else we sold, a big sale, was we sold a pair of riding boots, like equestrian, like
they're leather
boots.
riding boots.
And they sold for $300.
Yeah, and that was another thing where it's funny when there's best offer on something and someone buys it outright for a very high price.
Yep. And then we also sold another pair of shoes for $300, and these were just a pair of old Nike shoes.
Yeah, so you guys will see it in the video. We found a pair of cool vintage Nikes, not from the 70s, but from the 80s. They're probably from the early 80s. And they had this awesome pattern, this floral pattern. They were pink and purple and floral. You don't see that very often. When I look at vintage Nikes, it's mostly men's. So it was fun to find a women's pair. And I was like, I'm putting these high. I'm putting these at $300. I think I had best offer on it. And it sold within about 20 minutes for full price to a guy who collects Nikes.
Yep.
And
so, of course, we do what everyone does, like, oh, shit.
Do we price it too low?
Yeah, and the answer, it's for us by, it's his point is
no,
like,
we didn't.
Ryan did the research, saw about what these things sell for, and, like, that's a good price. Like,
yeah, and part of it was, if you have the ones from the 70s, we've had a pair from the 70s before, and we sold that one for about $250. It depends on the condition. So my thing was, this seems like the right price for these. So I'm putting them up, and it was, and the right person found it. So, I think you have to be confident if you've done the research. If I hadn't and put them up for $50, that would be dumb.
Yeah.
So,
but I think for us, it's like, you got to be happy for the profits and not cry over the fantasy of what could be. Right. And I mean, we're only psyched. I mean, these are the kinds of shoes that we found at a thrift store we bought for 50 cents, and just, they look like junk because they're just old tennis shoes, but that's why they're so sought after, because they hadn't really been worn. But we did clearly specify, like, when you feel them, the insides will feel kind of like they're crumbling a little bit, like they're very delicate because of its material is starting to deteriorate.
Right.
But these are not to be worn.
They're to be displayed. I know that sounds insane, but they're to be displayed as an object.
It's so interesting.
But that's what this guy, I mean, the great thing is, on watchcount.com, we saw what he bought, and he wrote to us, and he was like, I am a serious Nike collector. If you ever come across any vintage Nikes, please let me know.
And we were trying to imagine, like, do the people that buy these old shoes, like, do they have a room somewhere
with a case that they display them?
And, like, is there a list where they're trying to, like, say, okay, I need this pair and this pair? Because it just seems like it's, like, endless. Like, how I would feel like there would be thousands of shoes they would have to buy to, like, get all the collection,
I think
it's like Beanie Babies, basically.
Yeah, but I think that collectors like that, and you know what? I would love to interview him, because it would be fascinating. I think for them too, because eBay exists, they are able to just pick and choose what they think is interesting. Maybe they're looking for certain colors, or they need these certain ones from the 70s. You know, there's not a list. Like, I don't think there's like, I don't know, maybe there is. I'm not sure. I'm not a collector, so I don't know.
But that sale is like classic eBay. It's like finding something in someone's closet somewhere, and they took it to a thrift store instead of, thank God, throwing it away. And then we happen to be the scavengers to see its value and get it into the hands of someone that's going to then, I don't know, make it part of a group of items that gives it more interesting value, you know?
It's like they're trying to preserve a history that's interesting to them.
Industrial history.
Yeah, it's very cool.
We sold some...
Speaking of industrial history.
Yep, we sold some fabric.
Yeah, so this fabric, we live in a town where there used to be a Wrangler plant, which was also a Bluebell plant. Now, if you look up Bluebell denim pants or shirts or whatever, they sell for a lot of money.
It's classic American jeans and denim, yeah.
So I had a strip of fabric, weighed about 3 or 4 pounds, like, 4 inches wide, that we bought at an estate sale right across the street from the Bluebell plant. And we were like, this for certain came from there. And I had it up for $300, and we got an offer of $200, and we sold it. And I've had that for years.
Awesome.
So the right person got it. I was thrilled with that sale.
We also sold like a wood tripod, like a brass and wood tripod, like something that I think there is like a telescope on it or something.
Yeah, there was like this weird wooden telescope, but it was empty. Like there were no lenses on it. So we took that off actually.
And we think that, and so we sold it for $175. It was nice. The thing is, this isn't like one of the ones that we've seen before where it's really like super industrial and heavy duty.
Yeah.
It looks like it might be like a vintage, like maybe Pier 1. Like it looks more like a staging item because it's not like super heavy, but it still looks cool. Brass.
It is solid. It's solid brass, and it's solid some kind of like tropical hardwood, but it's not as fancy or like high end as one that you've seen in other places.
Some of the tripods I think of, like they weigh like 100 pounds because you're putting like a solid heavy item.
Yeah, this one looks a little more decorative. We actually sold it for $150.
Oh, $150.
Yeah. And I think I had $199, but we took an offer, and we paid $25 for it actually at a thrift store because we knew it would make money, but we weren't sure how much.
Yeah.
So $150, I'm happy with that.
Yep. No, it was good, and it's really that tripod is kind of a good example, like a snapshot of eBay for us. So on Friday, we hadn't sold anything all day long,
right?
And the evening was coming around, and then about 5 we got an offer on this tripod.
Yeah,
because we had it up for I don't know,
$199.
Yeah, and so we sold it for $150. And so it's I'm not saying because we accepted that offer then we sold all these other things, and then the evening we sold about 5 other items.
Yeah,
like
it was.
We sold a weather radio for $40. We sold some diaries for $65. We sold a key wallet for like $20. We sold some jeans, some vintage
yellow jeans
for $40. So it turned out by the time our head hit the bed and we were falling asleep, and we made about $300.
Yeah. So it's interesting because it's like it feels so slow, like, oh my god, we haven't sold anything today, and then boom, 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 it just like takes off.
Well, it just shows, again, we always talk about this, about the helplessness of an eBay store. Like, we had no control over anyone buying those things, and it's just like, why in that 6-hour time period did 5 people want all of this really random stuff, like buying a pair of yellow jeans and like a key wallet, it's like it's
why
random. But I think this is a good example of like how our strategy for eBay proves that it works again and again. I mean, we don't know when these people are going to want to buy this stuff.
Right.
We just know someone eventually will buy it. So we just get it up there. It's a search term on the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
And it might take a month. It might take 2 years.
Yeah.
But at some point, and the more of those search terms we have up there, the more stuff we're going to sell.
Right.
You know?
So some of those things have been up for 3 months. Some have been up for 6 months, 8 months.
And one
14 months.
Yeah.
But it's part of those Nike sneakers were up for 20 minutes.
Right.
You know, it's part of the pipeline. You just never know when someone's going to want that thing. And hopefully every single day, several people are going to want something from your store.
And that Friday is a good example of why I'm glad we don't waste our time. It's micromanaging all of our listings, you know.
Yeah.
We just list it and forget it, because if I had been stressing out about those pair of jeans that sold for $40, it took 2 years for them to, well, it took 14 months for them to sell.
Yeah.
But, you know, if I had been stressing out about it, we might have, like, kept slashing the price till we sold them for $12 or something, you know.
That's why we say list it and forget it.
Yeah.
So some other stuff that sold, we sold a set of, it was 16 pieces of stainless steel and silver-plated flatware that had USN, so I believe it was from the U.S. Navy. And we bought them for 10 cents each after people had started talking about buying, like, interesting flatware and small pieces.
I forgot who it was that was bringing it up, but, you know, that's why we like being part of a group of people who sell things online.
Yeah.
People were like, I sell a lot of flatware. And I was like, that's interesting.
I mean, we sell flatware, but we usually sell bigger groups.
And plus, we sell, like, sharp knives like cooking
and
knives.
stuff,
but
yeah.
I pass over a lot of just but we just happened to be in this thrift store 3 months ago or so. And,
Yep.
and we were picking through and saw, like, an interesting kind of pattern.
I think what was interesting was we were actually picking through it. Because normally, if I'm not buying a whole set, it's, you know, like, this is a set, it's ready to go, it goes... You know, I'm like, I don't want to pick through the silverware, you know, it's so boring. But then something caught our eye and we were like, these are 10 cents each, let's just get them. We sold them for $50.
Yep.
So that was, thank you to the people who give us the inspiration.
Yeah, we have a couple, it's more things. Normally we don't talk about everything we sell, but these were interesting things for us. Like, if we found a schoolhouse clock, like, basically the kind of, like, that, like, white institutional...
Yeah.
clock that was in every school I ever
like
went
I
to.
look at it and I'm like, oh god, I'm remembering elementary school, you
And
know.
people buy those. We sold for $90.
Yep. And I think I bought it for like $2.
And then we sold some more of amber. Well,
it's faux amber, and it's not Bakelite either, so
Right.
it's something in between.
but we sold it for $175. It's like yeah. But, you know, it's definitely vintage. It's definitely cool. It's just not real amber.
It's not real amber,
But we still
it's not
sold it
Bakelite.
for, yeah.
Well, and what's cool is it's a return customer who bought one of the Kimper. She bought the Kimper sugar bowl from us last week. So I wish that eBay would tell you, this is a return customer. She bought this from you last week. Because for me, you know, there's not much you can do with that information other than I want to write a little note. Thanks so much. You know, like a personalized note. So
yeah, eBay, I wish we've always talked about this. I wish eBay would, you know, make that information more upfront.
Yeah.
Be easy to find out.
I just happened to recognize her name and address. I'm like, that's the same lady.
This fake amber which we sold is interesting because it's another piece we got in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
This was actually 2 years ago when we bought it. And those of you that have heard us, we actually had bought a bunch of this stuff. We spent about $600
Yeah.
on all this stuff we thought might be amber because we had just amber or Bakelite because we had just sold a necklace
That was Bakelite.
for $1,200 that
Yeah.
was Bakelite. So it was kind of like all we could think about, and we were taking a gamble.
Yeah.
We knew it because we didn't know a lot about this stuff. We were still trying to figure out how to test it, and anyway, we paid $600 for all this stuff, and so this is another one of those pieces. We were hoping that each piece was going to sell for $1,200, so we're happy now that we're getting like $175.
Basically, we're making our money back plus some, but not making like the crazy money we thought we would.
But we had an adventure.
Yes.
Because we were going all around town in Amsterdam trying to find
I even
this
took
stuff.
a bus outside of town. It was a crazy, by myself, trying to speak Dutch to get the right bus.
It was cool. So we learned a lot, and now we know exactly how to tell if something's true amber or true Bakelite.
Right, exactly.
So instead we just got some cool vintage stuff.
Amber, fake amber.
Right. So I mentioned that we had sold these like notebooks, like these. We went to an estate sale in Beverly Hills.
Yes.
And there was a couple who had, I guess, died or it's whatever, and they had these diaries.
Yes, and what was interesting about them is one of them was this woman's diary from like the 40s where she must have been a teenager then or something, or just a young woman, and she was talking about how you're supposed to dress and like how to lead a happy life. It just was incredible. And then the other one was her husband, I guess, had been on a like cross-Atlantic steamship in the 50s and was like writing about what the weather was like and what they ate.
Right, and the kind of clothes he wore.
Yeah, so we sold those for $65. I think I had them up for, I think we took a half price offer.
I think they were even, I think it was even like $200.
Yeah.
We took an offer just because they actually weren't really long.
They were just a few pages each.
Yeah, so, I mean, one was like maybe 40 pages, and the other one was, like 5 pages.
I don't even think it was 40, yeah. So we were like, all right, that's cool. Someone wants them. But
it was interesting, when you go to estate sales, sometimes the estate sale companies are smart enough and they make these like a marquee object.
Right.
But the one we went to, they were just kind of shoved with all the other junky books.
Yeah.
So we probably got them for $1 each. And Ryan's actually the one that taught me that people care about like letters and that kind of stuff.
I sold a box of World War II love letters
that I was about to throw away. I'll be like, who cares about this stuff?
I mean, how much did I sell it for? I have to see how much I sold it for, but it was this huge box, so many letters. It was in a barn, in a chest that we bid on, and Jay was like, just throw it away. I'm like, no way.
It's like,
man.
who would care,
And I think I might have sold it for like $200. Right. So look who's laughing now,
I know,
Jay.
and it's true. And so I learned, that
ephemera.
And again, that is classic eBay, where people are saving this stuff, and
you can find it on eBay.
Yeah.
Where else could you buy that?
Right.
Besides an estate sale in person.
And then the last thing was we sold a porta potty for $86, and this is Ryan's childhood here.
Yeah, so it's a little potty that you bring on a boat or an RV if your RV doesn't have a proper toilet, like a pop-up camper. My mom used to have one when we were little because she used to have a pop-up camper that we would take on the road when we went to craft shows. So, man, I saw that thing in the store and I was like, oh, wow, I have memories of that. That's for certain.
It's basically just a box that is like a little trap door, right? So
yeah, it's a little trap door.
Go to its bathroom and then you just open the trap door and then it just hides it, right?
Yeah, and you can put chemicals in it so it doesn't smell, and there's like a little water pump to pump stuff down. And then you empty it when you get to like actually, I'm not sure how you empty it now. Yeah, like your septic pump out or whatever. So I sold it for $86. I don't remember how much we paid for it.
I think we actually paid like $5 or $10.
Okay, but
still worth
I thought, you know what? If they're brand new, this thing
vintage.
It looked like it had not been used or it had been cleaned pristine, but it had some scratches on it. So if they're brand new, they sell for over $100, but whatever. It was $86 global shipping program, which is hilarious.
So what a bunch of random stuff. But it was a good week because we sold a lot of high dollar items, and that's how we kept our average price sold to almost $70 this week because of all those good items.
And the thing is, this just happens to be one of those weeks where we sold an average amount, but everything was so high, and that doesn't always happen, and I don't want this like list that we just went off to be like they're showing off. It's like there are weeks where it's all like $20, $12.
But I do want to bring attention to it that you can make that kind of money on these items that, I mean, they're not as easy to find,
Right.
but they're out there. And that's the thing. We can only make the big bucks if we list stuff
Those
for
things
big
for
bucks,
that price.
You know? And
I
so-
could have listed a lot of that stuff for half of
Yep.
what I was asking, but you know, if I do the research or if I'm confident, look, this is worth it, I'm putting it up.
Yep.
And putting it up with make offer if I want, you know?
Customer issues.
Oh boy.
We only had one.
You're gonna go.
So we had one customer issue, and that is we got a negative feedback from a buyer.
When you messaged me that we got a negative feedback, because you're good at looking, I was in shock. I was like, what?
I mean, this happens to us every, it seems like 3 or 4, 6 months. I mean, it's kind of like, it just happens to us. I hear buyers who are like, you know, I've sold 5,000 things. I've never had a negative feedback ever. I'm like, that's awesome.
That's amazing.
I think we do a pretty good job, but this is an example of, it was a buyer who was actually
In Chile.
South America.
Yep.
They didn't contact us. They didn't ask for a return. We never
Or
heard
a
from them.
refund or a partial, or send us a photo of damage,
We
whatever.
just got a negative feedback, and they said there was something wrong with the item. And I immediately wrote the person and said, we're happy to fix this issue. What's the problem? You know, I mean, if there's something wrong with the item, let's do a return, a partial
refund,
something.
anything.
The person
Nothing.
did not write back. So it's just really confusing what the buyer is trying to accomplish. Like,
Right.
if it's not a usable item, then why not try and get your money back?
Work with us.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. The process is this. I obviously want to call eBay and get this removed. But like Jay said, our first move is to offer them a refund or a partial refund, a return or a partial refund. Because eBay is gonna say that that's what you have to do.
Right.
So we're waiting to hear back. If I don't hear back from them by next week, I'm calling and saying, this person's ignoring me. I feel I should, you know, get this negative feedback removed.
Right. And so that has worked for us in the past sometimes. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I just always want to remind people that sell, like, again, if you have a perfect, clear, no neutrals, no negative, that's awesome.
Incredible.
But I wanted to remind anyone out there that, you know, we always have, it seems like, since we started, we always have a couple of neutrals, a couple of negatives, and we sell just fine. Like,
oh yeah,
it doesn't kill
in terms
your
of
business.
search ranking,
Right.
in terms of people seeing your feedback. Oh, they don't have 100%. I don't even honestly barely look at that anymore.
Right.
That number.
Right. I mean, it's really about, obviously, it's ratio. I mean, we sell enough and have enough positive feedback where the negatives are just like,
Yeah.
you know, it's just like a rounding problem, you know. It's
Oh, yeah. I mean,
a rounding error.
It's
So anyway,
so we're gonna try to fight it, and you know, we'll do the best we can with.
I mean, that being said, the point of having a reputation based a system like eBay and a lot of these sites have, Airbnb has one too, is to help teach you, you know. So if you're getting a lot of these, there might be a reason why you're getting a lot of them. So we always do make sure, like, you know, did we do something wrong?
Right.
I mean, and, you know, do we need to, like, ship faster? Don't send out things that have defects, you know. Those have kind of taught us in the past about those things.
But in this case, where they didn't send a picture, they didn't tell us anything, they're in a foreign country.
So we don't really sweat it.
So, okay, what we did this last week.
Yep. So I photographed a bunch of bins, like items in bins. I talked about this. So I've been going through and getting and doing piles. So we had all those shoes. It took me 3 weeks. I did all the shoes.
Yeah.
And those are almost all up on eBay so far. So Wonder Team powers.
Yeah, Wonder Team.
So now I talked about it's last week we have 20 bins, like plastic tubs of items that have just been building up.
On our front porch.
We go to auctions, we go to estate sales, we go to flea markets, we bring a carload of stuff home, we cull out the exciting stuff that's going to sell for a lot, and then the stuff that's not so exciting would go in these bins. So they've been, some of it might be even 3 years old.
I am afraid to say that.
now it's what I'm doing. I did like 4 bins.
Wow.
It's this week because each bin has like 30 items.
A bunch of stuff. Well, what's funny is I went on the front porch, and all I see for the last 2 years, a wall of bins. Now the good thing is, our porch is screened in, and there is like a 3-foot wainscoting, so no one can see that if they're driving by, right? But I see it. Yeah. So I went on the porch, and there's like a big space where there used to be bins, and I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing.
And so it's interesting, like we always say, it's kind of like shopping all over again. We've forgotten about this stuff. It's just such all the little random things. It is interesting. We talk about wanting to put higher priced items into our store. This is not that stuff.
Yeah.
This is definitely like bread and butter.
Basic stuff. $20
to $60 items,
And you know what? We sell those all the time.
Yeah, but I kind of like to it's photographed this kind of stuff because each thing's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And it's like just all these little
We got it for a reason, you know?
I mean, these are
Don't call them knickknacks, because I do not want to sell knickknacks.
Bits and bobs.
Well, it's just like housewares and things you use for cooking or camping or, stuff like that. I like to think that we get more practical or decorative.
I mean, it's all stuff. If we didn't believe in it, we would give it away. I mean, everything has an interest to it, but they are just little things that you see on like a flea market table, like the guy that just has like a junky table and everything's like $1. This is that stuff. Yeah, finding all the
cool little
gems,
things. Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. I was listing.
Yeah. And listing a lot.
You didn't even say in the numbers how much I listed.
It was so many I couldn't even count. It was like over 200 items.
It was over 200.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I was on a listing spree.
It's so good. And that's the thing. So because normally in June we have a big
video job
that we normally do.
And we didn't take it this year.
Which
is kind of amazing.
So normally that takes up a big chunk of our time, and then we come home, and then we're only home for 2 months, and then we do another one in September. This year we're home from May to September, so we're getting a lot done.
Yeah.
You're like a listing, especially now with it's new way, all these folders. And my question is, what happens when you catch up? I mean, that's never happened.
I have never caught up to you.
Like, I can always take more photos than you can list, and now it's almost the exact opposite.
Well, if I get caught up, here's the good thing. If I get caught up, I only need a folder a day. So if I have the folder from you the day before, I'm fine. You know what I mean?
But I only take pictures of 20 to 30 things.
Good, then that's all I'll list.
You can list... like
then I get to do other things.
50 things a day, like make your lights.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but it's great though. I personally am embracing this idea of like taking less other kinds of work and just doing eBay and doing our rental.
Yep.
It's really, I find I'm getting into a nice groove, and it's really a calming reality.
And by nice groove, you mean sleeping till 10 a.m.
I did.
Actually slept till like 10 a.m.
One day, it's this week, like I got up at 6, or I didn't get out of bed, but I woke up and I like read my phone, and then I was like, I'm just going to go back to sleep. And then I slept the best I've slept in so long. Like it was like all REM sleep.
Right.
And
it's like deep sleep.
It was so cool.
And what's funny is that same day, I woke up at like 5:30 because, again, I don't know why I woke up, but I couldn't get back to sleep. I felt like I had been up because I was up for like 4 hours before you. I was like, what do I do with myself? Like, I don't want to be loud in the house because you're asleep. So I'm like in my office. Like, I felt like I'd been up for a whole day before you.
Yeah.
Which is how you usually are because I sleep late.
Yeah. But that's
the beauty of eBay.
But that was that Friday where we sold everything in the evening. I had slept late.
Yep.
I woke up finally, and I was drinking coffee. I was like, I don't want to do any working on the eBay stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's go on kind of a scavenging run. So we went to, we scouted out an auction that didn't turn out to have anything we wanted, but we went to a couple towns further away and just scavenged and got like a carload of stuff.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah.
And so we, and one of the cool things was because we just had all day long, it was just one of those kind of aimless kind of days. Like, let's just see where the day takes us.
Let's just really scavenge, like, see where we go.
I love that. We ended up in just like a place where they were doing a kind of like a marking down a bunch of plumbing stuff. So we ended up getting a bunch of like of faucets, and we've done this before where we've done sinks and stuff like that.
I am also like a plumbing fixture nerd, like, for sure, because we've refinished 2 houses, so we're always looking for cool quality, cool looking fixtures, to sell.
Right. And so we actually spent about $600, which was a lot of money for us.
When we got the total, we were like, oh.
But it was like for 17 items, I think, so a little more than $20 each. But this is kind of like, I guess, more the way the Amazon people think. And we're going to put this stuff on Amazon because it's new in the box.
Yeah.
All the boxes have a lot of damage.
Right.
But we'll just put it up and just see what happens. And
so, I mean, hopefully we'll make our money back plus a lot more.
But that was a day, and then we were selling everything at night. It was just... Yeah. That's why we do what we do, is to have those kind of days. Yeah. In my mind.
Okay, so let's talk about the rental property.
Yeah. So we had this as rental, this vacation as rental, and this week it's been a tough month for us. We started to rent in March, so we're still like trying to figure out what the ups and downs is of each month.
We're newbies.
And June has been like not very good, which is surprising to us. So this past week we've rented for 3 nights.
Right.
So basically it was a long weekend. The people are there right now. So, but the good thing is we're going to make $600. But
which is amazing.
It's painful to have those nights pass.
And they're
big
unbooked.
Chunks of nights without anything being it's rented.
The good thing is this next coming month is almost booked solid.
Yep. So that's the kind of cool thing about having a rental business for us, is that everything in the perfect world gets booked ahead of time. So in July, we already have 23 nights booked. Yeah. And there's a big chunk, the last week of a month, there's still a big,
several weeknights.
5 days that haven't been booked. So we could almost book the entire month.
If we book that last week, we'll be like, wow, that's incredible.
I mean, we could be making a little over $5,000 on a rental property in 1 month. I mean, that's why we wanted to do this. Like, when I would run the numbers, that was a big chunk of change. Right. But like this month, it's not so hot, but we're still gonna make $2,000.
Right, which is great. But we're obsessive and we want every night booked. So.
And the cool thing is, we have like half of August already booked. We already have 8 days in September booked. In October, we have like 8 days. Yeah. Because some people plan ahead and book like it's vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
Times. So it's good.
We love it. I mean, I'm becoming like a laundry expert.
I'm glad.
And, that's just what you have to do. I mean, there's a bunch of forums on Airbnb for new hosts, and actually a lot of people are not new hosts that are on there, but they just like to chat with people. I swear, people talk constantly about cleaning and laundry because that's a huge part. I mean, that is what you're doing, making sure the house is clean for the new people to come. So it's interesting. It's a whole like subculture of like what you do.
But I do want to make the point, like we did it last week. Actually, we talk about Airbnb, but we rent on both Airbnb and this other site, either
VRBO,
HomeAway or a VRBO. It's the same company.
It's owned by the same company. So.
And that we actually have the equal amount of reservations, so we couldn't survive on one or the other. It seems to work best on both of those. Yeah. And each platform brings a different kind of person. Like the Airbnb's maybe like a younger crowd, and VRBO is maybe more like
families.
Like families.
Yeah. So it's good. We like all those people.
Yeah.
Okay, so news. This is something I noticed this week. First happening this week was, as I'm signed into eBay, my phone will go off and I'll get an alert, like an offer comes in. But if I'm at my computer, I also see the offer come up on the page. You've received an offer.
It does like it's a notification.
Yeah, it's a little notification on your eBay page, which is so smart because, not everybody has their phone with them or uses the phone alerts. For me, I'm just like, it's all about the phone alert.
Well, it just makes their website, it's more active, so I'm not having to click on anything to get info. It's pushing
it out to you, which is so smart. I just thought that was so cool that they were doing that. I never saw any notice about that or whatever. It just started happening. So that's something to look out for when you're signed in.
I've noticed that they've done some tweaks like that. I mean, it's nothing really that big, but it just feels a little more... The website is feeling a little more up to date, which is good. So
they do it little by little, so that's good.
And then obviously it's the 20th of the month, or it's the 21st today, but you will be judged. You have been judged by eBay. So if you're new, this is what happens to all of us. The 20th of every month, eBay will judge you. So if you check your on its dashboard, there's a tab. Or it's a link called what, like performance. I will a link to it on the a blog, so you should just be able to click it, and if you're logged in.
Seller dashboard summary. Go to your dashboard.
Yeah,
it's like so ridiculous.
So and this is where they judge if you're top rated or above standard, or I guess if you're really bad, low standard.
You're in the red.
And it's cool, but we don't stress about it too much. But that's where it shows you all your defects. And
I like how you say we don't stress about it too much, yet I call eBay every week to remove our defects. Yeah. That's not stress. That's me just like being obsessive, I guess.
I think it's different. Like, we don't anymore. I mean, I guess because we're on top of things, we don't stress about it. We just take action. Like, we don't get angry about it. We're just like, okay, like
let's get this.
This is the information. Yeah. How do we handle this info?
Yeah.
And so that's it. Okay, a couple people sent me some things. I think we had mentioned this before. Maybe it was just on the blog. There's a site that helps you put a size of your item,
like measurements, like to show in graphic forms like what the measurements of your item, your clothing item are. It's called Sizely. It's size.ly.
Right. And the guy that made it, he emailed me and he seemed like a nice guy, and I don't know if it's a whole team. It was kind of unclear. I don't really like sites that don't have like bios with pictures where you feel like you can like, it's just kind of like, who are these people? But he seemed like a nice guy. It's cool. So you just type in its measurements of like a coat or a shirt, and then it gives you code that you can just copy and paste, and then you copy and paste that into your
description, I guess. You would put it in your description.
So that way when people are on eBay, they will see like this is what you have.
It's very cool. Actually, I'm looking at it right now.
It's a nice, clean site. It's nice to see that, because some eBay third-party sites are just like so
crappy,
clunky.
Oh my god!
And that being said, just happened to be another guy sent me. I think I had mentioned this before, but he has done an update, and I'll put a link onto our blog. But it helps you when you ship an item. It helps you choose what size box.
Okay, so you enter in the size and the weight of your box, and he's helping you figure out, okay, it could be a medium flat rate or a regional A or something like that.
So I'll put a link up there too. It might be helpful for people out there. And then I got a link. It's cool. It's Patrick sent me a link to why people like old pencil sharpeners.
That's so awesome.
And it's cool because it's like a blog post that explains why people want to buy those old electric pencil sharpeners versus the cheap ones that you can buy at China now.
And you know what's funny? We found one this week, and it's only because I read that.
Yep, because it's like the quality is like heavier. It's like, it run like engines.
And you find them all the time. I've seen them several times. I never bought them because I'm like, whatever. I should know.
People still use pencils, but it's like these artists or architects or whoever.
They use pencils. So we'll see how much we can get for ours. I saw an article on Boing Boing this week, which is a kind of nerdy sci-fi tech nerd blog, if some of you don't know it. And it was interesting because it was about how young people have stopped moving to big coastal cities like New York, San Francisco. We talk about this all the time because we've lived in those places. And it's so expensive to live there. And, we've been saying that for a long time. Mikey and Wendy have been saying that. We live in a rural place for that exact reason. So it's interesting to see, young people who are going out in the world and being like, I'm going to live in a cheaper place.
Now, the article doesn't say people are moving out to
rural
areas like where we are, but they're choosing to live in like Pittsburgh. Or Riverside, California. They're choosing to live in smaller areas where you can actually afford a real estate. But I think the jump isn't that far to people being like, I make a living through the internet. Why do I need to live even in any kind of city?
Let me just make my own cool little place in a rural area.
Something else, Airbnb, we talk about it because we rent our rental on there. They sent me a message. So they say if people sign up through our code that you'll get $25. It's credit. Hey,
there you go.
You'll get a $25. It's credit if you sign up and book a place.
Oh, cool.
At some point, and then we get $25 too.
Oh, cool. So it's a referral.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll put that link up there if maybe you're tempted to actually rent an Airbnb, a rental versus a hotel the next time you're out.
We love it. We've loved it for years. Obviously, we use it to make a living.
It seems like it's definitely something that eBay-like people might enjoy because it's more like funky,
Yeah, and also it's just a more personal experience. We've loved it since 2009 because you can, especially when we're traveling to other cities.
Because it's all about we want a bedroom, we want a living room, and a kitchen.
And I want to be in a neighborhood. I don't want to, like, the last time we were in Amsterdam, obviously we were staying in neighborhoods through Airbnb. And then we had our video job in like the outside of the city in a hotel
by the convention center.
Center. And it was like two different worlds.
Right.
I'm just like, this is like not actually Amsterdam. This is just like by the highway, by the airport, So
it's a different world.
Yeah. A lot of there are podcasts that are done by people who do shows on NPR. Like Serial was a big deal. People were obsessed with it.
It's This American Life.
This American Life. Okay, so there's another podcast called The Mystery Show. It's a smaller, shorter podcast. But there was a really great story about a belt buckle that this guy found. And then they tried to find the original owner of the belt buckle from like 20 years ago because it had this guy's name on it. But for me, I was like, that's such a scavenger story. Like, it's our whole thing of finding something and reconnecting it. Not to the original owner necessarily, but someone that feels like it has meaning with them. So we'll link to that podcast. It was really cool.
Yeah, and some people talk about things we like to play, and so we found this brand new podcast.
Yeah, I love it. I love her. She's a cool writer. She does writing for This American Life. So
she did this cool story for them where she was talking about. She like broke up with her boyfriend or something, and she called Phil Collins to get like info on like love advice.
But it was so interesting. The whole thing about it is her and her boyfriend loved Phil Collins not as like a joke. Some people are like, what are you talking about? But like young people aren't going to be like, I love Phil Collins music from the 80s. They really loved him. So she got a chance to like talk to him. That's an incredible story.
It was good.
Now we have to link to that one too.
And then, we talk about this guy.
Mr. Money Mustache.
He runs like a blog and there's a community there and it's all about like it's retirement.
Extreme early retirement.
So he's a good guy.
Yes.
And we feel kinship to him. But he said something very interesting. It's this week.
So he actually tweeted this out and Jay and I saw it separately. So we both came to each other and we're like, did you see that? And he said, luxury is best appreciated as a strong and interesting contrast to, rather than the fabric of your daily life.
It really is a smart way to think about it, you know. Instead of imagining that our lives have to be full of a luxury every second of the day,
Right.
instead, it's so much more interesting to have a frugal life and then have luxuries as like treats. And so it makes a luxury that much more like tasty and great.
Yeah, I mean, and then that's not to say like you need to just eat, peanut butter and jelly and ramen and struggle all the time. That's not what we're saying. We're saying we like to have a regular, frugal, thrifty lifestyle where you're not eating out every meal. You don't have like the best sushi, although I would like to eat the best sushi every meal.
No, I mean,
but
it's not even about food. It's just about everything, and I think it just makes sense. Like, instead of struggling to always have the best stuff all the time, it's just so much easier on life and actually more interesting to just have those kind of cool things every so often.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I think that's
it makes
the point.
things special.
Don't kill yourself. Like, I have to make, way over 6 figures so I can just have the best of everything. It's like, well, I want like cool, good stuff and a nice house and stuff, but I also don't want to kill myself working my whole life. So
yeah. I like peanut butter and jelly. And,
I love ramen actually, so I shouldn't diss ramen at all.
And then the last thing as far as news, there is going to be a scavenger meetup in Seattle, supposedly. We had mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but Dan, who is putting this on, asked if I would announce it again. And he said 2 people have already confirmed, which is cool. So it happens on Wednesday, July 15th at 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. and it's at a Denny's. We'll put the address up there, and he even puts like a little kind of a sequence of events, so
nice.
Everything's clear. So yeah, please contact him. I'll put his info up there as well.
Denny's. Yeah, I know what I'd get at Denny's.
Yep.
French toast.
Okay, some things we learned in the comments this week.
Yes.
It was a good week. So one of our regular posters is
Brian.
And him and his wife, they run a really good like a business where they sell mainly clothes, but they sell other things too.
And they sell a lot.
Yeah, they sell a lot of stuff, but he's really on time and really like into he's seems like a smart guy. Well, he came on the blog and said, "Oh no, I think you have to now have a
UPC code."
Because he noticed what we noticed too. When you go to a list,
yeah,
before you do the final, accept, there will be a warning where it says you are required to put a UPC code. It still allows you to post, but it like kind of makes you a little scared.
Yeah, it was weird because I always thought if something's required, like we've seen this before, where if you put something wrong in the shipping, it like won't let you post it. It's like, you did this wrong, you can't post this. So it was weird that I was like, I can list this and it's still letting me do it, but it was very confusing.
So I think it's Brian had a slow day, so he called eBay to ask if there was a problem, and he said he got a rep that said if you don't have a UPC code, even on all your old items, and Brian has like over 2,000 items,
right,
your listings will get pushed down in the
ranking.
It's ranking. So Brian, he had like a little bit of a freak out.
He had a bit of a panic attack, as you would think he would.
But it was good. We as a community, we all kind of started talking.
Yeah.
Trying to find links, and we did find a link to eBay. They had a spring update where they said that they were going to start asking for new items, the codes
UPC code
to be there. But it did clearly say, but anything a vintage or
used,
a one of a kind, you don't have to put it in there. So we were trying to get more info, and then Brian called several other people. He got to a supervisor. The supervisor says, "I'll call back." The supervisor actually called him back and said that person had been wrong. If you have a used or vintage items, no codes, no one's going to get affected. So everything's okay. But I really want to stress, like, that's a good example of people, all of us coming together
and
finding the right info so we can actually act on facts and not like just
Right.
that could have easily been, you know, where
Like an
everyone's just
eBay community forum freak out conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Because as we know, and this is a good example, and this sounds crazy, but sometimes you'll call eBay and it's almost like the reps, they want to say something that sounds official, but they don't really know the rules yet. And if the rules sound too crazy, like part of this was you couldn't go into the bulk editor and properly put in a UPC code or put in a not available, whatever, fill it in somehow in the bulk editor. So in my mind, I thought, if you can't bulk edit your old listings to include this information, it's impossible.
Well, I think, like we said it's before, if you sell on eBay full time, you often know more than what the customer service
which
rep
sounds
does.
crazy,
because
it's true.
Because we are interacting with eBay all day long, and we're testing all these different examples and finding all these special cases, and we understand that stuff. Whereas a CS rep very often might just be reading out a book. Maybe they've sold a couple things, but they don't know quite everything. So when we're told something really extreme like that would really cause a lot of stress or trouble, we just try and follow up and make sure that stuff is real.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we freak out.
I mean, there are times where I have panicked, like during Christmas in the global shipping program, supposedly they were saying you had to have dimensions on the objects, and everyone was calling and getting different info, and then finally we all found out it was just a bug. Like there was something in the system.
It's like a 2-day bug that
which
worked
was
itself out.
People were panicking. I was panicking, but it was good that people stayed calm and got their information, and we shared information, which I thought was important.
Something else in the blog comments this week was a couple people mentioned finding items in their inventory that they thought were listed on eBay, but they weren't.
Yeah.
And the one person said like they had listed it on a 30-day
30-day fixed price,
because eBay will do those things like free 1,500 fixed items for 30 days, and then she had forgotten or he had forgotten to put it back up after that had expired. And that to me is my nightmare, because I feel like once you get above a certain inventory, the list it and forget its method is, I feel, mandatory. Like if you have more than like 200 items, like if it's more than a couple of shelves, it becomes too much stuff to keep track of what needs to get listed and what doesn't. I mean, to me, my nightmare is there's an object sitting in our inventory
that's not listed
that I think is up that isn't up.
Or what's even worse is there's handfuls of items that are just taking up space.
Worse, yeah.
But for us, it's good till canceled. We never end those listings.
Right.
We don't touch it. We list it and forget it.
Right. That's why it's respect the churn and burn people.
Yeah.
Like a
churn
seller that's always about, I list it and it's got to get sold by the end of the month no matter what.
Yeah.
If I have to discount it, auction, whatever. Because that is their way of managing their inventory.
Right.
They're like, I don't want a big inventory, so everything has to go, because I also don't want an item to get
lost.
I'd rather just get rid of it than have it be lost.
Exactly.
Okay, our coming week. What's it going to be like?
Okay, so our renters leave on Tuesday, so we have a little bit of time between renters, so we're cleaning the house, obviously, but in the meantime, I am listing. I am almost caught up to you. I'm pretty sure I'll get caught up to you this week.
I think you have like 10 more folders. So.
Oh, no, it's not even that.
No?
I'm going to look.
Wow. Yeah, it's very interesting. For the past 3 years, you have 4 folders left? Oh my God.
4.
I always had like 20 folders of photos ready for you to do. And we were always like thinking, let's hire someone to list.
I've never been caught up. Not once.
The fact that we got rid of the template. I mean,
I I can't believe it took that much time.
When we were wrong, we were wrong.
I think what I don't understand is how could it have cut out that much time? I can't believe it's like...
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So the small changes can transform your business.
It's true, though.
And then I will be, for probably the next 2 to maybe even 3 weeks, be taking pictures of all these items.
The bins.
And I'll take care of all that stuff,
Let's get those bins off the porch, man. Let's get them gone. I'll list them as you're photographing them, I'm listing them.
And then something else interesting, it's this week. So we have someone's coming in on Thursday.
Yeah.
They leave Saturday, and then someone else comes in on Saturday into our rental, and then they stay for 5 or 6 days.
Yeah,
so it's good. We have a
days.
big chunk. But Ryan is leaving and going to Boston to visit her mom and sister.
On Friday.
And so I will be flipping the house myself, and plus I'm going to get our friend to help me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little baby and I need help.
I could not... That house cannot be flipped in 3 hours alone.
Right. And so we're going to do that. And it's interesting. We've been together for 10 years. There aren't very many times
where we're not together. I know.
Really
I can think of like a handful of times where it's like you went to a conference for the weekend or whatever. Like you're going to be at the house
and we don't
alone.
I mean, and we don't plan it. That's just how our life has been. We're just like we've always worked together or run business together and just
we go places together.
Every place I've got to go, you've got to go to, and vice versa, because we're working together. So.
I mean, during the day.
So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to be home alone. I'm going to be able to. What am I going to do? Like watch any movie? I can watch any movie I want.
You can watch any movie you want now. You're going to say next, I can eat whatever I want. You eat whatever you want now. You're just going to be lonely. You're going to be texting me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. You're going to be texting me about what sells on eBay. Yeah. Did you see that sale? Oh my God.
So actually, this is a conundrum for us, for you guys too,
because week's podcast.
We normally do the podcast on Saturday or Sunday, and Ryan's
I'm going to be gone till Monday.
So we're going to figure out something to post next week. We'll see.
Yeah. So please don't cry. Okay.
So let's answer some questions.
Let's answer questions and talk about comments. Okay, so you can call us on our voicemail line. The phone number is 540-407-8486. And you're welcome to ask us anything, comment on anything, comment on other questions, comment on comments on the blog.
Yeah, and we just like calls because it, kind of makes this podcast a little more human. The people that hear us, we get to hear you, we get to hear how it's questions being asked. I mean, and a lot of them are good it's questions too. So
okay, let's get started.
Hi Ryan and Jay, this is Carrie. I am a huge fan of your podcast and your blog, and my question for you is, if you had inherited pretty much every single Playboy magazine that had ever been printed from your deceased grandfather, and if you intended to sell it on eBay, because the older ones do tend to go for quite a bit of money, would you do so in a different store or under a different seller ID than where you usually sell? My fiance and I, we have a store, and we've been selling more and more over the last couple of months. And like you guys, we focus on, more vintage, one-of-a-kind items. And we're a little hesitant about maybe giving our buyers the wrong idea about our area of focus. So any thoughts that you have would be much appreciated. Thanks again for everything that you guys do. It's just the wealth of information has been so beneficial to us, and we really appreciate it. All right, thanks. Bye.
So number one, hubba, Grandpa.
Dude, whoa. Something.
It's so funny. Playboy used to be like really risque, and now it's almost like...
Yeah, it's like in the doctor's office, you're like, oh, Playboy, whatever.
Okay, look, I think it's a good question because we've asked ourselves this stuff too. Like, do we want to put like risque stuff on our store?
Right.
And I think the answer is, especially if it's like Playboy, no problem. Like, I don't think it's a big deal to put Playboys up. It's with all of your other items.
I mean, Playboy, you will see that Playboy, vintage Playboy especially, on eBay.
Yeah.
People sell it.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks anything different about your store. And
Yeah.
if you have every one printed from the beginning was in the 50s,
I mean,
please research your prices before you list them.
Yeah.
Because some of those sell for a lot of money, as you said.
This is where we have kind of a quandary where we're like, should we just sell the whole lot?
Right.
Like, sell all of it and try and get a big price and get it all just done? Or do we take the time to, like, sell it by a year's or just sell individually? You know, it really depends on how much time you want to spend with this stuff, because it could be a lot of work, you know?
It could be a lot of work. It could be a lot of money. You really have to do the research. Look on eBay. Look on other sites. There are collector sites about this magazine.
But I mean, her question specifically is like, are people going to think that they're dirty because they're selling porno mags? And I think, again, the answer is the people that would think that was like bad, I don't know, I think are going to be very few in this day and age.
Yeah,
and so
I don't think you're
it's
going to have a problem. I think you should list it and make some money on it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Len from Wisconsin. The Potter's Pickers is my eBay username anyhow. I wanted to know what you guys do, if anything, in using social media to promote your eBay store or individual items. I use Twitter to promote individual listings, and I have about 1,500 followers on my Twitter account, and I also use Facebook. I have a group set up as like the Potter's Pickers to basically I cull people off of like garage sale groups and invite them to come to our group, and you know, there I kind of promote the things that I'm buying and picking and promote our store and everything like that. So I'm wondering if you guys do anything with, like, other than the podcast really, to well, I guess even the podcast, you're not really promoting your store or the things you're listing or whatever. But I'm just curious as to what you do and if you see any results. Really, the only thing I see is I get a lot of views. I get a lot of people looking at stuff, but I can't really see necessarily that there's a big correlation in buying. But at the same time, I've always done it. Since I started my eBay account a year ago, I immediately tried to tie it to social media. So anyhow, love you guys. Love your show. Keep doing what you're doing because you are a super monster help to me. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
So I used to have a Twitter account, and I hooked up my eBay RSS feed to it. And it basically spammed Twitter. That's what it was doing. eBay said a couple years ago they didn't like the traffic from Twitter, and they discouraged it because they didn't like views without sales.
Right, so they were going to start to punish a seller that had a lot of clicks but not a lot of sales, because to them, to eBay, it meant that people were coming and looking at your item but didn't ever buy, so your item it must be junk. So if you're just, it's making spam links where people or something, you're just
some bot,
clicking,
basically bots are clicking those.
then you're just, it's making spam clicks.
Right.
So it's, no one's any happier. So we stopped doing that.
Yeah, and I'm not on Facebook. I do not like Facebook personally, so...
You still kind of do Pinterest.
Okay, so I was about to mention that. I really like Pinterest. I like it. I like hanging out on Pinterest. I like seeing what other people are doing on Pinterest. I like to see what people are posting on eBay and on Etsy through Pinterest. So I pin stuff.
Right. Because it feels like it is a little more, you know, like there's more stuff happening there, because if you're actually showing a photo, people put it in a collection. You know, people who are, I'm designing a room and I want these certain kind of objects, you know, they might not buy your thing, but someone else, because I pinned my light fixture, and the person who bought it had zero feedback. I think they found it through Pinterest. It's unfortunate we have no way to tell if people are buying our eBay items if it's
through
posted
Pinterest.
on Pinterest.
I wish I knew.
It's really unfortunate. But I think, like anything, social media only works if you put a lot of work into it.
Yes.
So if you have a Twitter account and you're into like a wooden hammers or something, and you're like a wooden hammer expert, and you're actually interacting with people and then posting the hammers that you find, I can imagine people would be buying from you because there's like a whole conversation going on.
Right.
But this whole idea of just like, you kind of, I see it like, you know, you got to get a Facebook account and just start spamming things about whatever. It just doesn't seem like it's worth it. So.
It's like you say, you got to put the work into it. If you want to be someone on Twitter who curates collections and whatever, that's different.
Hey guys, this is Trash Shelf Mike M from Unlimited Supply Warehouse. You guys are talking about the 90-day limit on the ads, right, to find the stuff. Well, if you guys have Activa and you're willing to pay the $5 a month or whatever, it will literally go back to the lifetime of your store. And so when you need to search something, you could go on Activa and search out the item number and find what the defect is through that. And you can find all kinds of stuff through Activa. See you later. You guys are awesome. Take care. Bye.
Yes, he's absolutely correct. eBay itself only goes back 90 days.
Yeah.
But for us, that's as much info as we normally need. But yeah, if you subscribe to Terapeak, or I think he said Activa,
yeah,
and there are some other sites, you then are basically paying for access to all of eBay's,
which is kind of amazing
history, which is cool.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's more about a matter of principle. I feel like I shouldn't have to pay to get that kind of, you know, it almost makes me kind of angry at eBay, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why doesn't eBay just make that info available, or at least to subscribers of stores?
Yeah,
like,
I pay a lot of money to get...
Like, it seems kind of cheap of them to then make more money by selling that info. So,
yeah,
I hear you. If you know, I think some people, they really like all that deep data, but I think for us, we're always good with just like 90 days of info is normally all the time we need.
Yeah.
To
plus
tell,
Google if it's really a rare thing.
Right. Just to tell if something's sold in past 90 days or not. Okay, I have a question that comes in, or it's more a comment, came in by email, and it was kind of about our last podcast we did where we were talking about that equation. Like,
yes.
What are the different parts of an equation that equal a person's store? And this person said one of the parts of the equation that we forgot to talk about was how much you spend to have a store. You know, so what is your cost of doing
its
business? And that's the cost of goods sold, the cost of your storage, the cost of if you're paying people. I mean, if you're paying a lot of money to run an eBay store, that could put a lot of stress on you to sell things a lot. It's faster.
Right.
But if you keep your costs low, it's like we try and do, then really it's like, whew. That's why we can allow things to stay on eBay for 2 years, because we don't really pay a lot to keep it up. We don't pay a lot to store it. We don't pay a lot for the item itself.
I mean, we do pay eBay fees. We pay PayPal fees. And a lot of people complain about that. They don't want to pay anything. They should just sell it at the flea market. Fine. But, you know, we like the low level cost of doing business as compared to having a brick and mortar store with employees.
Right.
It's a lot less.
But like we talked about today, we bought $600 worth of items this past week, which is a lot more money than we normally spend. That stuff I want to sell a little faster than 2 years. So we're going to be a little more competitive on price and all that.
Right, exactly.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. My name's Oriah. I live in San Diego. My store is Diva Monk. And I have a question for Ryan, although I think Jay is going to find it interesting. It's regarding Pinterest and eBay collections and social marketing, and it's a really geeky question. So lately, I've noticed that there was a trend for sellers to relist items using sell similar, and that the theory was that by making a new listing with your relisting, that it put it higher in, you know, people being able to find it and that it increased sales, which it definitely did for me. I noticed that eBay was even encouraging us to do this recently with promotions like, you know, you can have all these free listings, but only if they're new listings, really wanting people to update their listings before they were moving into the next stage. which now we're in the next stage. And here's the thing. So I belong I belong to a meetup group here in San Diego, and they were the ones that first told me about Sell Similar. But I had already started pinning items to Pinterest and the eBay collections. And my first thought was, crap, I've done all this work, which is kind of out the door if I do Sell Similar, because when a person clicks on it, the listing's ended. So they would really have to do some research to find it. So I just thought that was kind of weird, since they were pushing us to do the collections as well, which is similar to Pinterest. So lately, I've noticed that now eBay, since we've moved into this new, with the new changes, that they're pushing the good to till canceled, which is smarter for social marketing, I think. But I don't really know since I started pinning and I hadn't really seen the 30 days through. So my question for Ryan, I know this is complicated and maybe a little advanced, but I wanted to know from Ryan if when her good till cancels, listings that are pinned, when they relist after 30 days, are her pins still linking to available items in the store? I kind of think eBay and Pinterest are in cahoots, which is brilliant. Also, just because of RSS feeds and people being able to find our stuff, which how can they find it if we're constantly making it new? So anyway, that's my question. Thanks so much. I love your podcast. Bye.
Okay, so on Pinterest, when you pin something and it's good till canceled, meaning it stays up on eBay forever until someone buys it, that link stays the same on Pinterest. It doesn't change. eBay auto relists it in quotes, meaning it just stays up and you pay for another month. The link doesn't change. But if you do 30-day fixed price listing,
because you're trying to take advantage of eBay's free
right,
listings,
and then you relist it with the relist link, it's not the same item number. It's not. It's a new item number. It's the same item. It sends notices out to eBay people. Something you were watching has been relisted. Fine. The Pinterest link is broken. And anyone who blogged about it or repinned it or whatever, that's broken.
Right. So I guess that's an interesting kind of equation there. Like, if you want to put the time in to be pinning stuff, then you really have to buy into the listed and it's forget it idea.
Method, yeah.
Because if not, all that time pinning stuff just makes a lot of broken links.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, the interesting thing too is that even for us, if we sell an item and it's pinned, if someone sees that item and they click that link, we would hope it would go to our store, because even though the item's sold, we would hope that eBay would be like, oh, but go and check out their store anyway.
And it doesn't.
Instead, it just goes to ebay.com.
Yeah, it's really annoying. I'm looking at my pins. I have tons of stuff pinned over the last year, and a lot of it's sold. And it's sad when, someone might have pinned that, but I want them to go back to me. So I know they can click on my Pinterest username and see all my collections and stuff like that, but still, I wish there was a better, transfer rate.
We love geek. It's nerdy. It's questions like that.
Yeah, we love nerdy questions like that, for sure.
Hi, guys. This is Doug and Don in California. We were wondering what is the best way to ship the cutting knives for the kitchen. We've looked at a lot of different ways, and we can't come to some conclusion here, and what if you could help us out? We love your show, and thanks for everything. Bye-bye.
Okay, so I actually just sold a knife this week, and this is how I shipped them.
A sharp knife that would stab you in the heart.
Yeah, if you wanted it to. So with the kitchen knives, what I do is I get a piece of cardboard. You all know where to get cardboard. And I make a sandwich, and I tape all the edges so that the blade is in that sandwich and the knife is not going to come out of that sandwich cardboard. And then I wrap that in a plastic bag and tape the plastic bag up just in case, just so it's all one little package. And then a lot of times I'm shipping these in those USPS priority boxes that are long. It's a rectangular size box, almost like a regional rate A type box. You can send it that way, or they make a box that's just priority, a plain priority box. It's a similar size. And I stuff it with the newsprint paper so the knife doesn't move around. And that's how I pack them. And they've been fine that way. As long as you really conceal the blade and make it like a thick cardboard sandwich, you're going to be fine.
Yep, and we've never had a problem.
Never had a problem.
Yep. Although we talk about this, and we buy stuff on eBay and Amazon.
Oh, man.
And eBay especially, and it seems like it happens is a lot lately where we'll buy an item and the person just takes the item,
puts it in a bubble mailer,
puts it or even just in a flat rate envelope and just like closes it and just mails it.
Doesn't wrap it up.
And you open it up and you're like, wow, I can't believe it survived.
I ordered a light bulb. Those like vintage style like Edison light bulbs with the filaments? I ordered one of those last week and they just put it in a bubble mailer. A glass and filament light bulb. It was fine, but I'm sure they get a lot of people that are like, this should be shipped in a box. This got crushed.
Well,
so crazy to me.
I mean, I assume as long as they don't get it's broken, then they don't really care. But it is interesting.
This is my theory that enough of them get through undamaged that the ones that do get damaged, they make enough money to make up for having to give refunds. They save enough money sending it in a little first class, you know what I mean?
Wow.
It's all about the bottom line. They're like, some might get broken, but we save so much money.
Like we would spend more putting it in better packaging versus doing it cheap and just doing as refunds on the ones that
because it's free shipping.
Wow.
So they want first class because the thing weighs, 5 ounces.
That's so interesting.
So, Jesus, it's crazy.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, Jay. I've been listening to your advice, and everything sounds real good. I've been getting a lot more higher prices since I've been listening to you. I've been hearing you talk about defects, and I found on my seller dashboard where the defects are listed, but how do you see the individual defects and what they are and how to get them removed? If you could answer that, please. Thank you. Bye.
So we're going to put on the blog, we'll put a link to where its defects are. And if you click on it, and if you're signed in to eBay, it should take you to your specific ones.
But I'm going to tell you guys where to find it also, just so you can hear where it is. So on my eBay, if you have Seller Manager Pro, there's a thing, you click on my eBay, it says Seller Dashboard Summary. You click on Go to Your Dashboard, okay?
It's on the right-hand side.
Yeah. So on here, you can see, like, this many things have defects. So I click on that, and it gives me, like, a menu of a list. And then on the bottom of that, in very small writing, it says Download a Report, okay? You're going to click that link. You're not actually going to download the report. So click on the link. You can if you want to. It makes you sign in. So I'm signing in. Okay, and it says Transaction Defect Report. And there's a link. You can download a full report, and then you can look up your item numbers in your email or wherever. Or it says expand to see your 20 most recent defects. So you'll expand it, and it gives you the item ID, transaction ID, the date, and it doesn't give you the actual title of the item. So you're going to have to look in your email. That's what I do. I take the item ID and I search my email because I never delete any emails.
And then it gives you a reason.
The reason, yeah. So return item description.
Yeah. I mean,
blah, blah, blah.
And this is one of those things where I wouldn't expect anyone who is new to selling on eBay would be able to follow that path or find it on their own. I don't know why.
I don't even know how we found it.
Why eBay doesn't make it? It's like a Google its product where it's just like a big graph. Just I click it, there it is.
Tell me the item number. Tell me the username. Because when I call to dispute the defects, they ask for all of that. So. Yeah.
But that's what you need to be on top of if you want to keep top rated seller status and keep on top of that stuff.
That stuff.
Part of me feels like they kind of hide it because they're just trying to avoid headaches because they don't want everyone calling them. But who knows?
They're make it easy to see. No way.
Hey Jay and Ryan, this is Jeff in Tennessee. Just have a couple questions. My first one is selling nail polish. I came across some nail polish in an estate sale. I purchased it, and when I went to list it, it said that eBay put up a message that I could not list used cosmetic. Dug into it a little further, saw where you can sell used cosmetics if you list them as used or clearly state that they're used. Have you ever sold used nail polish? Second is kind of a question just in general. Been selling on eBay since 1999, doing it full time now, thanks to you guys for the most part. I used to get real excited when I'd list something and it would sell immediately. Like, oh, wow, did something right here. Now I almost get upset when something sells fast, and I'm just curious, do you all have a time frame that you think is optimal when something sells? 2 weeks, 4 weeks? Just kind of weird how that mindset goes from getting all excited when something sells quickly to now I get upset when something sells quickly. Think I sold it too cheap. So thanks for all you do. I appreciate it.
So the first question about nail polish and cosmetics in general. I don't know where you found the information where it said you could sell used cosmetics, because clearly you can't. But like you said, what I do is, like, I have some nail polish that I used once, and I list it as new. You're probably not supposed to do this, but I will say in the description, I used this once, or I tested the color and didn't like it. I'm not sure when that changed. I think that that's a new thing, but that's my way of getting around it. I don't think you're really supposed to do that, but I'm not sure where you found the information that said you can sell it used if you state it. I don't know how that's possible.
I don't know. I think it just makes sense. I think it's like it's with anything on eBay. As long as you just say,
you gotta say it.
Like, here's the picture of it.
Right.
It's like half full.
Yeah, kind of exactly.
And then the second question is.
The second question is a great question. Right. So, like we were saying with our Nike shoes, we listed it for a high price, a good price, but it sold within 20 minutes, and we're like, "Ooh, did we make a mistake?"
Right.
That's always a normal reaction.
Yeah, I mean, like, it makes us feel a little bit like maybe we should have done more. I think that's the thing. It's all about making sure when you list an item, if you get that price, are you going to be happy?
Right.
It's with it. And ultimately, and maybe if we found another pair of it's Nikes, we might try $1,000 and see what happens. But
well, and the other thing is, did you do the research? If you sell something for $50 and then do the research, oh, this is actually worth $500. Oops. You should have already, done some research on the item and felt good about the price.
I think and this is where all the people that love auctions will come up and say, well, this is where you guys are wrong, because auctions, you let the market set the price, so that item that might have sold for $300 maybe on auction might have sold for $5,000, so that's where we're right. I mean, I think for any item that gets into a bidding war, there will be 500 items that don't sell or sell for the opening price.
99 cents.
So I find that if you just do the big strategy, as long as those of us that like the illicit and forget it, as long as we do its research, 99.9% of the time, we're going to get more out of that item than people that throw it on auction and just hope that it gets bid up.
And more out of more items in general. Like, overall, we get more money out of more items.
Yeah.
Hi, yes. I called customer service. This is Mare from New York. About the UPC code. And I didn't know with the little V that you could click and it says does not apply. So I called eBay customer service. So the guy because I said it's going into effect June 15th, correct? He said correct. And he said the government wants it. I've been selling on eBay for 15 years. I said to the guy, I don't think it's the government. I think it's eBay. And he goes, yes. And I go, okay, thank you. Have a lovely day. Because I sell a lot of items, no box, no UPC code, and I wasn't quite sure what to do. But just wanted to know if, anybody else has commented about this. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.
Okay, first of all, I love you.
Yeah,
You're awesome.
Because that's the way that you have to handle its business, is like, you got to take it, you got to ask its question, don't take a stupid answer, and make sure it's the right one. So, yeah.
And you're right. He didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah, so it's like we said, for old and vintage stuff, you don't need a code because there is no code.
It doesn't exist. eBay knows that.
Although I think in the future, we probably will do that drop down where it says like...
Does not apply.
Right. So that's fine.
I have been doing that on my listings. It's an extra step, but I'm just kind of like, okay, if that's what they want, I'll do it for now.
All right, that's the end of the show. Again, everything we talked about, all the links and kind of like info, we will put on scavengerlife.com. You can also go over there and join the conversation. As soon as we post this, we'll start to get people kind of jumping in and having their opinions on things. You can call and leave a question or comment, and we'll play it. It's next week if you want.
And that phone number is 540-407-8486.
We post an episode every Sunday night, Monday morning, depending on our schedule. And then a Wednesday, we normally post a what sold a video or a what sells.
Yes.
Just so you can actually see some of these items that we sell and the prices we get for them. You can subscribe to this podcast through iTunes or
YouTube.
I know that there's like 2 different audiences out there. There's like the YouTube people and there's the iTunes people. So
I hope there are other kinds of audiences too. The direct sitting on the blog people.
Yeah. So anyway, we thank you for joining us, and we hope that you were able to get some work done while this happened.
And make some money.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
3, 2, 1, bye.
Oh, we almost did it.
Oh my God.